You got a burden. I know you do. We all do. But let me tell you something. That burden you're carrying, it's not just weight on your shoulders. It's not just something holding you down. No, that burden is your ticket to greatness. How can I say that? Because I've been there. I felt that weight. I've struggled under loads that seemed too heavy to bear, but I learned a secret. And today I'm going to share it with you. Your burden is a blessing in disguise. It's not here to crush you. It's here to build you up, to make you stronger, to push you to heights you never thought possible. Think about it. When you go to the gym, what do? You lift weights, right? You put strain on your muscles. Why? Because that strain, that resistance, that's what makes you stronger. Without it, you'd stay weak. Life works the same way. Those burdens you're facing, they're your spiritual dumbbells. They're your emotional barbells. They're here to build you up, not tear you down. But here's the catch. You got to change how you see them. You can't just sit there feeling sorry for yourself. You can't just complain about how heavy they are. No, you got to grab those burdens with both hands and say, thank you. Thank you for making me stronger. I know what you're thinking. Easy for you to say. You don't know what I'm going through. And you're right. I don't know your specific situation, but I do know this. Every single person who's ever achieved greatness has faced burdens. Every single one. You think Nelson Mandela had it easy? 27 years in prison? That's a burden. But he turned it into a blessing. He used that time to grow, to learn, to become the man who would change a nation. You think Helen Keller had it easy? Blind and deaf from infancy. That's a burden. But she turned it into a blessing. She became an author, a political activist, a lecturer. She inspired millions. You think Nick Vujicic got it easy? Born without arms or legs. That's a burden. But he turned it into a blessing. He became a motivational speaker, touching lives all around the world. These people didn't succeed despite their burdens. They succeeded because of them. Their burdens forced them to dig deep, to find strength they never knew they had. And you've got that same strength inside you. Right now, at this very moment, you just need to tap into it. So how do you do that? How do you turn your burden into a blessing? Let me break it down for you. First, you got to accept it. Stop fighting against your burden. Stop wishing it away. Accept that it's here right now in this moment. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means you're ready to work with what you've got. Second, find the lesson. Every burden comes with a lesson. Maybe it's teaching you patience. Maybe it's teaching you resilience. Maybe it's showing you what really matters in life. Find that lesson. Embrace it. Third, use it as fuel. Let your burden fire you up. Let it ignite a passion in you, a passion to grow, to improve, to succeed. Don't let it extinguish your flame. Let it fan it. Fourth, share your story. Your burden isn't just for you. It's a testimony waiting to happen. When you overcome, when you turn that burden into a blessing, you become living proof of what's possible. You become hope for someone else who's struggling. Fifth, be grateful. I know it sounds crazy. Be grateful for your burdens. But yes, gratitude is a powerful force. It changes your perspective. It opens your eyes to opportunities you might have missed. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. It's not. Turning your burden into a blessing is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but it's also one of the most rewarding. Let me give you an example. There was a young man, let's call him Tom. Tom had a stutter. A bad one, couldn't get 2 words out without stumbling. That was his burden. And for years, it held him back. He was shy, withdrawn, afraid to speak up. But one day, Tom decided he'd had enough. He was going to turn this burden into a blessing. He started by accepting it. This is my voice, he said. It's not perfect, but it's mine. Then he looked for the lesson. He realized his stutter had made him a great listener. While everyone else was busy talking, he was observing, learning, understanding. Next, he used it as fuel. He set a goal to become a public speaker. Crazy, right? A stutterer wanting to speak in public, but that's exactly what he did. He practiced every day. He joined speech clubs. He volunteered to give presentations. And you know what? His stutter didn't magically disappear, but his fear did. He learned to work with his stutter, not against it. He even started using it in his speeches, showing others that imperfections don't define you. Tom shared his story. He talked about his journey, about turning his burden into a blessing, and people listened. They were inspired. They saw their own struggles in a new light. Finally, Tom became grateful for his stutter. Without it, he said, he would never have found his true calling. He would never have touched so many lives. That's the power of turning your burden into a blessing. It's not just about making yourself feel better. It's about transforming your life and the lives of those around you. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, but my burden is different. It's too big, too heavy. I can't turn it into a blessing. Stop right there. That kind of thinking is your real burden. Not whatever situation you're facing. It's that belief that you can't overcome. that belief that you're not strong enough, that belief is what's really holding you back. Let me tell you something. You are stronger than you think. You are more capable than you can imagine. And your burden, it's not too big for you. If it were, it wouldn't be your burden. You see, life doesn't give us burdens to crush us. It gives us burdens to challenge us, to push us, to help us grow. Think about a pearl. How does a pearl form? It starts with an irritant, a grain of sand that gets into an oyster's shell. That's a burden for the oyster. But what does the oyster do? It doesn't try to get rid of the sand. Instead, it covers it layer by layer until that irritant becomes something beautiful and valuable. You got to be like that oyster. Take your burden and cover it with layers of determination, perseverance, and positivity. Turn it into your pearl. I know some of you are nodding your heads. You're feeling it. You're ready to take on your burdens. But others of you, I can see it in your eyes. You're still doubting. You're still thinking, this sounds good, but it won't work for me. Let me ask you this. What's the alternative? Are you going to let your burden crush you? Are you going to let it hold you back from becoming the person you're meant to be? Are you going to let it rob you of your dreams, your potential, your future? No, you're not. You're going to stand up right now. You're going to look your burden in the eye and you're going to say, thank you. Thank you for making me stronger. Thank you for pushing me to grow. Thank you for being the catalyst for my success. Because that's what your burden can be, a catalyst. It can be the thing that propels you forward, the thing that sets you apart, the thing that makes your story worth telling. But you've got to make that choice. You've got to decide that you're not going to be a victim of your circumstances. You're going to be a victor. It's not going to be easy. There will be days when your burden feels too heavy, days when you want to give up, days when you question everything. That's normal. That's part of the process. On those days, I want you to remember this. The darkest part of the night comes just before dawn. When things seem at their worst, that's when you're on the verge of a breakthrough. Don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. I want you to do something for me right now. I want you to think about your burden. Really think about it. What is it that's weighing you down? What's that thing that you've been seeing as an obstacle? Got it? Okay. Now, I want you to ask yourself these questions. What can this burden teach me? How can it make me stronger? How can I use it to help others? How can it push me towards my goals? These questions will help you shift your perspective. They'll help you see your burden not as a roadblock, but as a stepping stone. Now, let's get practical. Let's talk about some specific strategies you can use to turn your burden into a blessing. First, reframe your situation. Instead of saying, I have to, say, I get to. Instead of this is happening to me, say this is happening for me. This simple shift in language can have a profound impact on how you view your burden. Second, set goals. Your burden doesn't define you, but it can refine you. Use it as motivation to achieve something great. Maybe your financial struggles inspire you to start a business. Maybe your health challenges motivate you to help others with similar issues. Third, practice self-care. Turning your burden into a blessing takes energy. It takes strength. So take care of yourself. Eat well, exercise, get enough sleep, meditate, do whatever you need to do to keep yourself physically and mentally strong. Fourth, surround yourself with positive people. You need a support system. You need people who believe in you, who encourage you, who push you to be your best. Find those people. And if you can't find them, be that person for someone else. Sometimes the best way to lift yourself up is to lift others. Fifth, celebrate small victories. Turning your burden into a blessing is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. So celebrate every step forward, no matter how small. Did you face your fear today? Celebrate. Did you choose positivity over negativity? Celebrate. These small victories add up. Sixth, learn from others who've done it. Read biographies, watch documentaries, listen to podcasts, learn from people who've turned their burdens into blessings. Let their stories inspire you and guide you. Seventh, give back. Use your experience to help others. When you do this, you'll find that your burden becomes lighter. You'll see purpose in your pain. You'll find meaning in your struggle. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This all sounds good, but my burden is different. It's not something I chose. It's not something I can change. I hear you. Some burdens come to us through no fault of our own. Some situations are beyond our control. But here's the thing. Even if you can't control the situation, you can control your response to it. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, said, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. That's powerful. No matter what burden you're carrying, you have the freedom to choose your attitude. You have the power to decide how you'll respond. So choose to respond with strength. Choose to respond with courage. Choose to respond with determination. Your burden doesn't have to define you, it can refine you. It can shape you into someone stronger, wiser, more compassionate. Think about a sword. How is a sword made? It's heated in the fire, beaten with a hammer, plunged into cold water over and over again. That process is brutal, but it's what turns a lump of metal into a strong, sharp, valuable weapon. Your burden is like that fire, that hammer at cold water. It's painful, it's challenging, but it's also what can forge you into something stronger, sharper, more valuable. So embrace the process, embrace the challenge, embrace the opportunity to become more than you were before. Now, I want to address something important. Turning your burden into a blessing doesn't mean you have to be happy about your situation all the time. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to feel frustrated, angry, sad. Those feelings are natural. They're human. The key is not to stay in those negative emotions. Feel them, acknowledge them, but then choose to move forward. Choose to find the blessing even on the hardest days. Remember, every expert was once a beginner. Every success story started with a struggle. Your burden is not the end of your story. It's just a chapter, and you have the power to decide how the story continues. So what's it going to be? Are you going to let your burden hold you back? Or are you going to use it as a launching? Are you going to see it as a weight that's crushing you? Or as a weight that's making you stronger? Are you going to focus on what you've lost or on what you can gain? The choice is yours. And it's a choice you have to make every single day. When you wake up in the morning and your burden is the first thing on your mind, you have a choice. You can say, oh no, not this again. Or you can say, all right, what are we going to learn today? How are we going to grow today? When you face a setback, when things get tough, when it feels like your burden is too heavy to bear, you have a choice. You can give up, or you can say, this is just another opportunity to prove how strong I am. When people tell you it's impossible, when they say you can't turn your burden into a blessing, you have a choice. You can believe them, or you can prove them wrong. I'm challenging you right now. I'm challenging you to make that choice, to decide right here, right now, that you're going to turn your burden into a blessing. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take work. It's going to take commitment. It's going to take courage, but I promise you it's worth it. The person you'll become in the process, the lives you'll touch, the example you'll set, it's all worth it. So stand up, stand tall, look your burden in the eye and say, you don't own me. You don't define me. You're not here to break me. You're here to make me. Say it with conviction. Say it with determination. Say it like you mean it. Because from this moment on, your burden is no longer just a burden. It's a blessing waiting to happen. You got this. You're stronger than you think. You're more capable than you know. And your best days, they're not behind you. They're not even here yet. They're coming, and they're going to be amazing. Why? Because you're not going to let your burden hold you back anymore. You're going to use it to propel you forward. You're going to use it to reach heights you never thought possible. So take that first step. Make that choice. Turn your burden into your blessing and watch as your life transforms in ways you never imagined. Remember, the world is waiting for your story. The world needs your example. The world is ready for you to show what's possible when you refuse to be defined by your burdens. You are not your burden. You are so much more. You are potential. You are strength. You are resilience. You are. So go out there, face your burden head on, embrace it, learn from it, grow through it, and then use it to bless the world. Because when you turn your burden into a blessing, you don't just change your life. You change the lives of everyone around you. You become a living, breathing example of what's possible. You become the answer to someone else's prayers. You become the inspiration for someone else's journey. You become the reason someone else decides not to give up. That's the power of turning your burden into a blessing. It's not just about you. It's about the ripple effect you create. It's about the lives you touch, the hearts you inspire, the hope you ignite. So don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't put it off until tomorrow. Start now. Start today. Start this very moment. Take your burden, whatever it is, and make a commitment to see it differently. Make a commitment to use it as a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. And as you do, remember this, you're not alone. Every single person you admire, every single person you look up to, they've been where you are. They've faced their own burdens. They've had their own struggles. The difference, they made a choice. They chose to see their burdens differently. They chose to use them as fuel for their fire, not water to extinguish their flame. You can make that same choice. You can write that same story. You can create that same transformation. It all starts with a decision to see your burden not as a curse, but as a catalyst, not as a problem, but as a possibility, not as an end, but as a beginning. So make that decision, make it now. Make it with every fiber of your being. Look at your burden and say, you're not here to break me. You're here to make me. You're not here to stop me. You're here to propel me. You're not my enemy. You're my opportunity, because that's what your burden truly is, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to become more than you ever thought possible. Think about it. When has real growth ever come from comfort? When has true strength ever come from ease? Never. It's the challenges, the struggles, the burdens that forge us into who we're meant to be. You see, life isn't about avoiding burdens. It's about learning how to carry them. It's about building the strength to not just bear your load, but to use it to your advantage. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. Your burden, that's your backpack. Sure, it's heavy. Sure, it slows you down. But what's in that backpack? Food to nourish you, water to sustain you, tools to help you on your journey. Without that backpack, you wouldn't make it to the top. Your burden is the same. Yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's challenging, but it contains exactly what you need to reach your peak. So stop trying to get rid of your burden. Stop wishing it away. Instead, open it up. Look inside. What tools has it given you? What strengths has it developed in you? What wisdom has it imparted to you? Maybe your financial struggles have taught you resilience. Maybe your health challenges have shown you the importance of every moment. Maybe your relationship difficulties have helped you understand yourself better. Whatever your burden is, it's giving you something valuable, something you can use, something you can grow from, something you can turn into a blessing. But here's the thing, it won't happen automatically. Turning your burden into a blessing is a choice you have to make every single day. It's a choice to see the opportunity in every obstacle. It's a choice to find the lesson in every hardship. It's a choice to seek the growth in every challenge. And let me tell you, it's not always an easy choice. There will be days when your burden feels too heavy, days when you want to give up, days when you question everything. On those days, I want you to remember this. The oak tree grows strong, not in spite of the wind, but because of it. The wind forces the oak to sink its roots deeper, to grow more resilient. Your burdens are your wind. They're forcing you to sink your roots deeper. They're pushing you to become more resilient. They're challenging you to grow stronger. So on those tough days, stand tall like the oak. Let the wind blow. Let it challenge you. Let it strengthen you, because with every gust, you're becoming more powerful than you ever thought possible. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but you don't understand. My burden is different. It's too big, too heavy, too much. Let me tell you something. There's no such thing as a burden that's too big to turn into a blessing. No such thing. History is full of people who face seemingly insurmountable burdens and turned them into incredible blessings. Think about Beethoven. He lost his hearing, a devastating burden for a musician, but did he give up? No. He composed some of his greatest works, including his Ninth Symphony, while completely deaf. He turned his burden into a blessing that has enriched the world for centuries. Or consider Stephen Hawking. Diagnosed with a debilitating disease that gradually paralyzed him, he could have seen it as the end. Instead, he turned it into the beginning of an extraordinary journey. He became one of the most renowned physicists of our time, inspiring millions with his brilliance and his resilience. These people didn't succeed despite their burdens. They succeeded because of them. Their burdens pushed them to depths of creativity, determination, and strength they might never have reached otherwise. Your burden can do the same for you. It can push you to new heights. It can unlock potential you never knew you had. It can lead you to a level of success you've only dreamed of, but only if you let it. Only if you choose to see it not as a weight holding you down, but as a force propelling you forward. So how do you make that choice? How do you start turning your burden into a blessing? Let me give you a roadmap. First, acknowledge your burden. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Don't hide from it. Face it head on. Name it. Understand it. Accept that it's part of your journey right now. Second, look for the gift. Every burden comes with a gift. It might be hidden. It might be hard to see, but it's there. Maybe it's a lesson you needed to learn. Maybe it's a strength you needed to develop. Maybe it's a direction you needed to take. Find that gift. Third, use your burden as motivation. Let it fire you up. Let it push you to prove everyone wrong. Let it drive you to heights you've never reached before. Fourth, share your story. Your burden isn't just for you. It's a testimony waiting to happen. When you share how you're turning your burden into a blessing, you become hope for someone else. You become living proof that it's possible. Fifth, be grateful. I know it sounds crazy. Be grateful for your burden, but yes, gratitude changes everything. It shifts your focus from what's wrong to what's possible. It opens your eyes to opportunities you might have missed. Sixth, take action. Turning a burden into a blessing isn't just about changing your mindset. It's about changing your actions. What can you do today, right now, to start turning things around? And seventh, never ever give up. This isn't a one time decision, it's a choice you have to make every single day. Some days will be harder than others, but keep choosing, keep pushing, keep turning that burden into a blessing. Now, I want to address something important. Turning your burden into a blessing doesn't mean denying your pain. It doesn't mean pretending everything is okay when it's not. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to have bad days. The key is not to stay there. Feel your feelings, acknowledge your pain, but then choose to move forward. Choose to find the blessing even in the midst of the burden. Remember, diamonds are formed under pressure. Pearls are created through irritation. Gold is purified by fire. Your burden is your pressure, your irritation, your fire. It's shaping you into something precious, something valuable, something beautiful. But you got to stay in the process. You got to endure the pressure. You got to work through the irritation. You got to withstand the fire, because on the other side, that's where the blessing is. That's where your transformation happens. So I'm challenging you right now. I'm challenging you to look at your burden differently, to see it not as something holding you back, but as something propelling you forward, to view it not as a curse, but as a catalyst for your greatest blessings. Can you do that? Can you make that shift? Can you choose to see your burden as a blessing in disguise? I believe you can. I believe you have that strength within you. I believe you have that power. But it's not enough for me to believe it. You've got to believe it. You've got to know it deep in your bones. You've got to feel it in every fiber of your being. So stand up right now. Stand tall. Look your burden in the eye and say, you don't own me. You don't define me. You're not here to break me. You're here to make me. And I'm going to use you to become more than I ever thought possible. Say it like you mean it. Say it with conviction. Say it with determination. Because from this moment on, your burden is no longer just a burden. It's the key to your greatest blessings. It's the catalyst for your most incredible transformation. You got this. You're stronger than you think. You're more capable than you know. And your best days, they're not behind you. They're not even here yet. They're coming, and they're going to be amazing. Why? Because you're not going to let your burden hold you back anymore. You're going to use it to propel you forward. You're going to use it to reach heights you never thought possible. So take that first step. Make that choice. Turn your burden into your blessing, and watch as your life transforms in ways you never imagined. Remember, the world is waiting for your story. The world needs your example. The world is ready for you to show what's possible when you refuse to be defined by your burdens. You are not your burden. You are so much more. You are potential. You are strength. You are resilience. You are hope. So go out there, face your burden head on. Embrace it, learn from it, grow through it, and then use it to bless the world. Because when you turn your burden into a blessing, you don't just change your life. You change the lives of everyone around you. You become a living, breathing example of what's possible. You become the answer to someone else's prayers. You become the inspiration for someone else's journey. You become the reason someone else decides not to give up. That's the power of turning your burden into a blessing. It's not just about you. It's about the ripple effect you create. It's about the lives you touch, the hearts you inspire, the hope you ignite. So don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't put it off until tomorrow. Start now. Start today. Start this very moment. Take your burden, whatever it is, and make a commitment to see it differently. Make a commitment to use it as a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. And as you do, remember this, you're not alone. Every single person you admire, every single person you look up to, they've been where you are. They've faced their own burdens. They've had their own struggles. The difference? They made a choice. They chose to see their burdens differently. They chose to use them as fuel for their fire, not water to extinguish their flame. You can make that same choice. You can write that same story. You can create that same transformation. It all starts with a decision to see your burden not as a curse, but as a catalyst, not as a problem, but as a possibility, not as an end, but as a beginning. So make that decision. Make it now. Make it with every fiber of your being. Look at your burden and say, you're not here to break me. You're here to make me. You're not here to stop me. You're here to start me. You're not my enemy. You're my opportunity. And then, my friends, watch as your burden becomes your biggest blessing. Watch as your greatest challenge becomes your greatest triumph. Watch as your darkest night becomes your brightest dawn. Because that's what happens when you choose to turn your burden into a blessing. That's what happens when you refuse to be defined by your challenges and instead use them to redefine your future. You got this. You got the power. You got the strength. Now go out there and show the world what's possible when you turn your burden into your blessing. Your time is now. Your moment is here. Your transformation is waiting. Embrace it, own it, turn your burden into a blessing, and watch as your life becomes a testimony that inspires the world.